Can a woman be a queen without a crown, without a throne, without a title recorded in the official annals of the state? In Portugal, a republic for more than a century, there remains a courtly figure who is invited to state banquets, high-level ceremonies, and diplomatic receptions. She is not addressed as Your Majesty, yet she is treated with respect, as though she were a living embodiment of royal memory. She is the Duchess of Braganza, wife of the claimant to the Portuguese throne. Her image is not just one of social elegance. It is a bridge between past and present. And like every worthy heir to royal tradition, she speaks the language of jewels. Today, we will open the jewel box of the House of Braganza, discovering which pieces accompany the Duchess at international gatherings, which heirlooms have been carefully preserved since the time of Queen Amélie, and which treasures still spark debate among historians. The Portuguese monarchy belongs to the past, but royal grandeur is still very much among us. Before we begin, please support my channel by clicking on the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you. Her name is Isabel de Herédia. Born into a Portuguese aristocratic family, she grew up between Lisbon, Angola, and Brazil, and at first glance, nothing suggested she would one day become the only woman in modern Europe to receive a duchess's title through the dynastic traditions of a monarchy that no longer exists. In 1995, Isabel married Dom Duarte Pio, the head of the House of Braganza and the rightful claimant to the once existing Portuguese throne. Since then, she has borne the title Sua Alteza Real, a Duquesa de Braganza, Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Braganza. And though Portugal is a republic, that title is far from a formality. The Braganza family continues to play a semi-public role in society. They are invited by the President of the Republic to attend state banquets. Kings and queens of Europe welcome them to weddings and jubilees. At such events, the Duchess Isabel represents not only her dynasty, but an entire royal heritage within Portuguese history, through her bearing, her words, and of course, her jewels. From the moment of her wedding, she began wearing family heirlooms that had been stored for decades in bank vaults. Tiaras, necklaces, brooches once belonging to Queen Amélie and other members of the royal line. These jewels are not merely glittering accessories, they are history speaking to us across the centuries, and now we will uncover them one by one, as though turning the pages of a chronicle. In 1886, French Princess Amélie of Orléans married the heir to the Portuguese throne, Prince Dom Carlos, Duke of Braganza. For such a significant dynastic union, the Portuguese royal family prepared thoroughly. The court's official jewelers, Leitão and Irmão, were commissioned to create a series of jewels for the new bride. One of these was a tiara, personally chosen by King Luís I, Amélie's father-in-law. This piece, which the Queen would later affectionately refer to as Le Diadème Dom Luís, was crafted in gold and silver, adorned with rows of diamonds and elegant fleur-de-lis motifs. The cost of the tiara was $10,000, a staggering sum in the late 19th century. After her husband ascended the throne in 1889, Queen Amélie made the tiara a defining element of her official image. She wore it at receptions, parliamentary openings, and, of course, in her formal portraits. Following the tragic assassination of King Carlos and their son, Crown Prince Luís Felipe, in 1908, and the subsequent fall of the monarchy in 1910, Queen Amélie left the country with her family. However, as she herself later noted, the Republican government returned her personal jewels with respect. Not even a single pin was missing. Among these heirlooms was King Luís's tiara. After the Queen's death in 1951, she outlived her only son, King Manuel II, who died childless. Her jewels were divided among her sisters, nieces and nephews, close friends, and godchildren. The tiara was inherited by her godson, Dom Duarte Pio, then heir to the headship of the House of Braganza. More than 40 years passed before Le Diadème Dom Luís was seen again in public. In 1995, at the wedding of Dom Duarte and Isabel de Herédia, the bride wore this very tiara, a gesture that spoke not only of a connection to the past, but also of confidence in the future. Later, the Duchess shared that, upon arriving at the church and seeing the crowd that had gathered, she removed her veil. "I thought, they've been waiting so long, they deserve to see me. It was a spontaneous gesture of gratitude." Since then, this tiara has become the Duchess Isabel's choice for the most formal portraits. She wore it at the state banquet during the Dutch royal visit in 2017, and again at the wedding ball of Prince Ludwig of Bavaria in 2023. And in October of that same year, something symbolic happened. At the wedding of Infanta Maria Francisca, the Duchess's daughter, le diadème d'Homme Louis sparkled once more, this time on the head of the next generation. In formal portraits of Queen Amélie, one striking element appears again and again, a wide diamond choker that encircles the neck and emphasizes her graceful silhouette. It was more than just a stylish detail. It became a hallmark of late 19th century fashion and a reflection of Amélie's personal taste. This piece, crafted in gold and silver, is arranged in a geometric lattice-like pattern and set with large diamonds. It carries a monumental elegance. It is believed to have been created after 1889, the year Carlos ascended the throne and Amélie became queen. The choker is thought to have been made from diamonds originally set in a necklace gifted to her on her wedding day by her mother-in-law, Queen Maria Pia. That necklace, in turn, was said to echo the design of the tiara Amélie had received from her father-in-law, King Luís I. In 1951, when Queen Amélie passed away, the choker was inherited by her godson, Dom Duarte Pio, the future head of the House of Braganza. For nearly half a century, the piece remained in a bank vault, unseen by the public. It wasn't until Dom Duarte's wedding to Isabel de Herédia in 1995 that it re-emerged into the light. That same year, it was featured in the exhibition Royal Jewels of Northern Portugal in the city of Porto, alongside other family heirlooms. The Duchess of Braganza has worn the choker at particularly formal receptions. Later, a special frame was commissioned to allow it to be worn as a tiara. In this transformed version, the jewel appeared at the celebrations for King Carl XVI Gustaf of Sweden's 60th birthday in 2006. And in 2017, during the state visit of King Willem Alexander and Queen Maxima of the Netherlands to Portugal, the Duchess of Braganza wore the diamond choker again, this time paired with King Luis's tiara. It was a union of two powerful symbols, bridging the lives of Amélie and her modern-day successor. Among the grand historical relics adorned with large gemstones, the floral tiara worn by the Duchess of Braganza may appear more modest at first glance. But that is precisely its strength. This piece is a true embodiment of understated elegance and versatility, and for that reason, it has become one of the most frequently worn jewels in Isabel's collection. The exact origins of the tiara are unknown. What we do know is that it has been part of the Duchess's collection since at least the early 2000s. The jewel is a rigid necklace with a delicate, refined design of diamond-set leaves. It can be worn either as a necklace or a tiara, and looks equally striking in both forms. Isabel was first seen wearing the piece at the wedding ball of Duchess Fleur of Württemberg in 2003. Since then, the floral necklace tiara has become her go-to travel tiara. Light, compact, and easy to transport, making it ideal for international royal occasions. But it is not reserved for foreign events alone. When crowned guests visit Portugal, this tiara often accompanies the Duchess. In 2008, during the return banquet for the Swedish royal couple's state visit, she paired it with her mother-in-law's Aquamarine Suite. In 2016, she wore it at a reception in honor of King Felipe and Queen Letizia of Spain. In 2018, it appeared again at the banquet for King Philippe and Queen Mathilde of the Belgians. And finally, in 2023, the tiara reached a milestone. Infanta Maria Francisca, the Duchess's daughter, chose this very tiara and its matching earrings for the wedding ball of Prince Ludwig of Bavaria. The family jewel had passed to the next generation without losing its relevance or beauty. The story of the next jewel begins not in Europe but in tropical Brazil in 1942, at the height of World War II. It was then at the Cathedral of St. Peter of Alcantara in Petropolis that Princess Maria Francisca of Orleans Braganza married Dom Duarte Nuno, head of the exiled Portuguese royal house. This was more than a wedding. It was the reunion of two branches of the same dynasty, once divided by civil war. Descendants of Emperor Pedro I and King Miguel, representing liberal and absolutist sides, were brought together again in a single marriage. As a gesture of affection and support, a group of high society women from Rio de Janeiro organized a subscription for a wedding gift, and the result exceeded all expectations. Created by the jeweler Mappin and Webb, which had a workshop in Rio at the time, the suite features 19 large Brazilian aquamarines framed in diamonds, an exquisite piece of craftsmanship. The Duchess, affectionately called Chica by her family, wore the set immediately after the ceremony, at the reception held at the Grão Para Palace, pairing it with a Diamond Bandeau. In the following years, she proudly wore the aquamarines at international gatherings. After the Duchess's sudden death in 1968 at the age of 53, the suite was inherited by Dom Duarte Pio, but for nearly 30 years, the jewels remained in storage until 1995, when they reappeared around the neck and ears of Isabel, the new Duchess of Braganza. Since then, the Aquamarine Suite has been worn exclusively in Portugal, and only for the most significant occasions. In the world of royal jewels, not everything is measured in carats. Some of the most precious heirlooms are not grand tiaras, but small, personal pieces that carry the memory of a family. Such is the Diamond Bandeau tiara most frequently worn by the Duchess of Braganza. This delicate, refined piece features 7 floral clusters interspersed with twisted diamond bands. Thanks to its flexible construction, it can be worn either as an open bandeau or a closed circlet. This bandeau has a special history. It once belonged to the grandmother of the current duke, Princess Maria Francisca of Orleans Braganza, wife of Dom Duarte Nuno. On her wedding day in 1942 in Petropolis, she used the tiara to secure her antique lace veil. From that moment on, the bandeau became her faithful companion at all formal receptions and royal balls. The Duchess wore it to the weddings of monarchs throughout Europe, in Yugoslavia, Spain, Belgium, and Greece. After her passing in 1968, the piece was inherited by her son, Dom Duarte Pio. His wife, Isabel, chose not to wear the bandeau at her own wedding, opting instead for the more dramatic tiara of Queen Amélie. But in the years that followed, the bandeau became her most practical and frequently used tiara, especially for engagements abroad. Lightweight, delicate, and easy to travel with, the bandeau has accompanied the Duchess to events in Monaco, Denmark, Luxembourg, Prussia, and even to the wedding of Grand Duke George Mikhailovich of Russia in Moscow in 2021. This bandeau seems to speak on behalf of the family. It is not just part of an outward appearance, but a tangible link between generations. In a recent interview, the Duchess shared that she plans to pass it down to her daughter, Infanta Maria Francisca. And while that may mark the dispersal of the family's jewel collection, for a piece so rich in personal meaning, it may well be the most natural fate. Sometimes a small jewel can speak louder than a whole chest of treasures. That was the case with the emerald brooch chosen by Infanta Maria Francisca, Duchess of Coimbra, for a very special moment, the dinner following her wedding on October 7th, 2023. The evening took place in the family home in Sintra, in an intimate setting. Instead of wearing a traditional tiara, Maria Francisca adorned her hairstyle with a vintage brooch, a detail as personal as it was elegant. According to available sources, the brooch had once belonged to her grandmother, Princess Maria Francisca of Orleans Braganza. A comparison of photographs shows that the piece was altered over time. It now features more emeralds, and some decorative elements at the top and bottom have disappeared. This isn't the only example of subtle transformation. The earrings Maria Francisca wore at the reception also once belonged to her grandmother. The diamond in her engagement ring was taken from those very earrings. It's quite possible that the earrings themselves were crafted from parts of the brooch that no longer exist. The story of the House of Braganza is not only about the past, it also lives in the present, where there is still room for international diplomacy and mutual respect between monarchies. On the day of her wedding in 1995, Isabel de Herédia received an unexpected and generous gift from the Moroccan royal family, a diamond suite created especially for her. The set includes a necklace and earrings made of gold and diamonds, designed in an intricate open-work style with floral motifs. This jewel became a symbol not only of friendship between the two royal houses, but also of a new chapter in the Duchess's life, one in which she would represent Portugal among Europe's royal circles. The suite quickly became one of Isabel's favorites. She wore it at the wedding of Archduke Georg of Austria in 1997, and later at the wedding of the then Prince of Asturias and Letizia Ortiz in 2004. In 2021, at the wedding ball of Grand Duke George Mikhailovich in Moscow, the Duchess once again chose the Moroccan Suite. She wore the same combination again the following year at a state banquet in Lisbon, held in honor of Grand Duke Henry of Luxembourg and Grand Duchess Maria Theresa. And perhaps one day we will see this suite worn by Infanta Maria Francisca, the Duchess's daughter, or by the future wives of her sons, the Prince of Beira and Infante Dinis. A gift once given to a young bride may well become part of the next generation of family history. The jewels of the Duchess of Braganza are the voice of her family, resonating across generations. They are treasured, passed down, reinterpreted, and worn for life's most significant moments. But in the history of the Portuguese crown, there are also jewels that no longer belong to any single family or woman. They have become part of the nation's heritage, crown treasures, symbols of a vanished monarchy, carefully preserved in state collections. One of the most dazzling of these relics is the Star Tiara, a sparkling marvel from the 19th century, commissioned by the eccentric and magnificent Queen Maria Pia. Its radiant points became a defining symbol of the Portuguese court in the late 1800s. The tiara, designed at Maria Pia's request, was a brilliant tribute to diamonds and to the ambition of a young Italian princess who became the consort of the Portuguese king. Shortly after arriving in Lisbon in the 1860s, the young queen commissioned an entire parure of 69 stars crafted from the finest Brazilian diamonds. The set included a tiara, necklace, brooches, hairpins, earrings, a bracelet, and even a comb. The work was entrusted to the jeweler Estevão de Sousa and took 3 years to complete. Its most distinctive feature was its flexibility. The stars were mounted on coiled springs, en tremblant, allowing them to quiver slightly with movement, creating a shimmering effect. At the center of the tiara was a striking yellow diamond, famously known as the Maria Pia diamond. After the death of King Luís I in 1889, the tiara, like the other so-called state jewels, was passed on to the new queen, Amélie of Orléans. She often paired it with diamond rivière necklaces and sapphire pieces from the royal treasury, as well as her diamond choker. It was under Queen Amélie that the tiara was altered. A rivière was added to the base, and additional rows of smaller stars were inserted between the original large ones. However, this expanded version was never captured in portraiture, as tragedy soon followed. The assassination of King Carlos and Crown Prince Luís Felipe in 1908, and the fall of the monarchy in 1910. The royal family fled the country, but the star diadem remained. As it was considered a piece of state regalia, it became part of the official Portuguese crown jewels. In the 1950s, the parure was reduced. Only the tiara and necklace were preserved. Today, the tiara is kept in the Royal Treasury Museum at the Ajuda Palace, secured in a highly restricted vault. After a major theft in 2002, security measures became even stricter. The tiara is rarely displayed and can only be seen during special exhibitions. Yet even out of sight, the Diadema das Estrelas, the Diadem of Stars, remains a star in its own right. a testament to the luxury, theatricality, and ambition of the Portuguese court on the eve of monarchy's twilight. Among the treasures that now belong forever to the nation, the Crown Sapphires hold a special place. 3 magnificent 18th century pendants that have survived multiple generations and remained in Portugal after the fall of the monarchy. According to one account, these jewels once belonged to Queen Maria Barbara of Spain, an infanta of Portugal by birth and the wife of King Ferdinand VI. After her childless death in 1758, her jewelry collection was returned to her native Portugal. The sapphires later came into the possession of 2 other childless infantas, Maria Francisca Benedita and her niece Isabel Maria. It wasn't until 1879 that King Luís I formally acquired the set as part of the crown's property. His wife, Queen Maria Pia, made the jewels more wearable. The 2 pear-shaped sapphires were converted into earrings, while the large oval stone became the centerpiece of a stunning sapphire necklace. When King Carlos ascended the throne, Maria Pia passed the jewels to the new queen, Amélie. Since Amélie did not have pierced ears, the sapphire earrings were adapted into pendants, and all 3 elements were suspended from a diamond riviere. The queen often wore them in this form for official portraits and formal events, frequently pairing them with the Star Tiara. Like the Star Tiara, the sapphires were recognized as state property and remained in Lisbon. Today, they are preserved in the Royal Treasury Museum at the Ajuda Palace. Though modest in number, these 3 sapphires are monumental in meaning. They no longer shine as personal ornaments, but as part of the enduring legacy of Portugal's national history. Among the treasures preserved in the museum, the sapphires are not the only jewels with centuries of history. But there were also those that faded from view, passed down through inheritance, absorbed into private collections, or dismantled and lost. One of the most mysterious cases is the fate of Queen Amélie's magnificent emerald parure, once radiant at receptions and in portraits, now vanished without a trace. In 1886, when the young Princess Amélie of Orléans married the heir to the Portuguese throne, Dom Carlos, her parents gifted her a present worthy of a queen, a splendid emerald parure consisting of a tiara, a necklace, and 3 brooches. It is believed the set was created by the French jewelry houses Bapst or Laurent, among the finest of their time. Some speculate the jewels may have been an Orléans family heirloom, though this has never been confirmed. Soon after her arrival in Portugal, Amélie wore the parure at official celebrations. She appeared in the emeralds in formal portraits both as Duchess of Braganza and later as Queen Consort. The emerald parure was included among Amélie's personal jewels, those the government allowed her to take with her when the monarchy was overthrown. In exile, living in Versailles, the queen continued to wear the parure, occasionally adapting it to fashion, for instance, transforming the tiara into a bandeau. After her death in 1951, the parure was inherited by her nephew, the Count of Paris, who, according to sources, sold it at auction not long afterward. Today, the whereabouts of the tiara remain unknown. One theory suggests it was acquired in the 1950s by a South American billionaire and still lies hidden in a bank vault. Another claims the tiara was dismantled and lost. I'd like to believe the tiara has survived intact, and that one day it might resurface at auction. It would be wonderful if it could be recovered and returned to the National Royal Treasury Museum, where it could finally take its place alongside the Star Tiara. More than a century has passed since the Portuguese monarchy came to an end, yet the jewels that once graced queens and infantas continue to tell their story, in museums, at diplomatic receptions, and in family traditions passed from one generation to the next. The House of Braganza no longer reigns, but it continues to live through image, memory, and gestures of reverence for the past. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which of these jewels impressed you the most? Do you believe such treasures should remain in private hands or belong in museums? Thank you for watching this video to the end. If you're drawn to the world of royal jewels, history and heritage. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss future episodes. Until next time, may the beauty of the past continue to inspire us today.